Hello everybody, Future Leamon here, and before we jump into Pan-Pacifica Part 2, I did have a couple of things. The first is there will be spoilers in this episode, so this is Pan-Pacifica. The Pan-Pacifica sourcebook has not gone out to the general public yet. The Kickstarter backers have received, or most of them should already have received, their physical packages, and PDFs have been out for a while, but it hasn't been released to the general public yet. So if you are waiting for that as of today, which is June 12th, 2023, then come back to this episode at a different time once you've read the book. Also, JM was unable to make this episode as well, but I had a couple of volunteers to be guest hosts, so we have 2 guest hosts, and this one, 4 people is quite a lot, and I knew that we would probably even get off onto tangents and down rabbit holes even further than normal, and that does occur in this episode. A lot of interesting things come out in this episode. A couple of comments that were made were incorrect about original Torg, so I tried to clarify those within it, and just that. So it's a little more chaotic than previous episodes, but that's because we had 4 people. I wanted to see how it worked, and just remember, when we're not talking official material and we're giving hints and tips and tricks and things like that, take what it is that you like, what we say, put that in your game, leave anything else outside, and make the game your own. So yes, I believe that we publish and will be publishing very good material. Take it as you need it and only what you want. Nothing is saying that you have to use all the stuff out there, and we give lots of opinions and varying opinions in this podcast. So I just wanted to point that out. So 4 people talking very long about Torg in general, Pan-Pacifica specifically. Hope you enjoy, and during the summer, when we don't have, people have busy schedules, I'll be bringing in guest hosts and things like that, so expect to see some of the other authors or returning guest hosts on, like Rachel has done. And having said that, please enjoy the episode. Hello, everybody. Once again, this is the Torg Eternity Delphi Council Debriefings, where the storm has a name. Today, we have many hosts. We have 2 of us regular hosts, Mark and myself, Leamon, and then Rachel is joining us again as a special guest host, and we are introducing Adam as our other guest host. So we'll try 4 people and see how 4 people go. So this could be even more rambling and tangential, I guess, than our other Delphi Council debriefings, but it's all in good fun, and we have a lot of knowledgeable people here that have participated with, I think all of us are in the Pan-Pacifica sourcebook credits, or have done something with Pan-Pacifica. So that is really cool. I wanted to, we will introduce Adam because he is brand new, but right before that, Rachel has an announcement about a Kickstarter.
Yeah, so quick plug. I am a stretch goal writer for Never Going Home's current Kickstarter from Wet Ink Games. So I'm going to be writing an adventure for their game. And if you are not familiar with their scenario, their setting is basically a World War I setting, except the horrors of war have become real physical manifestations. But will anybody really believe you, since you are in the trenches of World War I? So that's going to be a lot of fun to write for. I'm very excited. There's some great authors on that project, and highly recommend you check it out.
I concur on that, Rachel. The artist for the cover of the core book is Stephen Cummings, good friend of mine, incredible artist.
Incredible artist. The art throughout that, that entire run is amazing.
So, Adam, let's have you introduce yourself and your history with Torg, either original Torg and either or, I guess, would be, or both, Torg Eternity. So before I just keep falling over my tongue, I'll switch it over to you.
And this is why we don't expect scientists to make public presentations. I mean, you know. All right, so I'm Adam Thompson. As far as Torg Eternity goes, I'm in the current bullpen. I've written for Pan-Pacifica, have a credit in the Delphi missions book for Arash. But I first came to Torg, as you know, many people did with RPGs in our generation, walking through Walden books. Found it on the shelf. It looked cool. Pulled it down. Started flipping through. First book I ever found actually was Infiniverse Volume 1. Flipped through that. That looked really neat. It had the box set sitting next to it. Grabbed them both and became a Torg junkie at that point. It is the only game in my history of playing role-playing games that I found without my older brother, who taught me to play games when I was 5 years old. And so from there, big Torg fan, game went out of print, of course. Couldn't find a lot of people to play. Walked through Gen Con, met Ross Watson, saw the Gaunt Man poster. I've got a picture of me somewhere standing next to the cardboard cutout of the Gaunt Man. You know, someone said I looked afraid in the picture. I said, it's the Gaunt Man. You choose to be afraid. And then got involved, back to Kickstarter. Had some fundamental issues that we will not go into with the way some things were written originally in the core book. Addressed those with Greg and got hired. And it was cool being a fan of Greg's for 30 years to get hired by Greg to do work for the game was just absolutely incredible. And as far as Torg itself goes, that's it. It's been a great run so far. I wrote my first piece with the stuff that's in the Pan-Pacifica book while traveling just before the pandemic. I happened to write the section of Singapore sitting in my hotel room on Orchard Road in Singapore.
That's cool.
Nice.
So, since this is a family podcast, we won't talk about the thing that got edited out of the section and why. But and I didn't even put non-family stuff in, but apparently you can look up the building, find it in the wiki, immediately it tells you what its nickname is, and therefore that had to go. But all in all, no, it's been a great ride. I love writing for Torg. I love playing it. We have a regular group here, been here 5 years. A lot of the stuff that I write for Torg gets play tested at my table because why not? My guys are always going, do we get a playtest credit? I'm like, well, I'm not the publisher. I don't get to make that decision, But all in all, that's my Torg life.
Very cool. So at the listed below, Mark and my our stream that we do on Wednesdays is always there, and we will add Rachel Writes Things, her webpage there, and we'll have Adam's information as well, so you can check out both of their current and possible future and past projects. So before we get into Pan-Pacifica Part 2, I do want to do a disclaimer or a caution. If you are a player, you might not want to listen to this because we are going to do some spoilery and secrets that come out because Pan-Pacifica is the hidden invasion. But we will be talking about certain things like that. And also Pan-Pacifica has just released to the physical products to the backers of the Kickstarter. And soon, hopefully, it'll be out there for everybody. But until then, this will be new information for some of you listening, if you listen to it around this time. So having said that, also email us at torgdcd@gmail.com. Give us your comments, your questions, and we will read those and answer any questions on the next episode. We didn't have any between the last episode And this one, so we're just going to dive in and be all random and crazy like. So, Pan-Pacifica Part 2, ideas, inspirations, talk about the High Lord, the Darkness Device, any and all of that cool stuff we will be getting into. So let's just, being the brand new guest host, Adam, any random thing you want to say, Pan-Pacifica?
Sure. First thing I'm going to start with is if you read the Pan-Pacifica description of the core book, ignore everything about the Asian nations rushing to ally with each other. Doesn't happen. Culturally, there's the Filipinos don't trust the Japanese don't trust the Chinese. Koreans don't trust the Japanese or the Chinese.
No.
The person who wrote that section wrote it from an idealistic point of view, and the fact is that Torg is supposed to be Earth. It's supposed to be the near now. It's supposed to be what attitudes are pervasive today. And because of that, the idea that Asian nations would rush to ally with each other, even in the face of a contagion or of an invasion, is just not realistic. So that's the first thing. Take the information for the realm. If you're looking at the core book, ignore everything else and look up the way each of these nations see each other today, because that's exactly how they'll see each other in Torg.
And look at the source book. It's
I might fight Adam a tiny bit on this, in that Torg a lot of times is about 5 minutes into the future. So the fact that it does have that potential for alliance and then having it fall apart later is potentially even a cooler story to play with.
So, Rachel, I'll fight you back on that.
All right.
For most of my life. Having
Yeah,
been in Asia most of my life, I'm going to tell you that exactly what I said is exactly the reality.
I spent some time in Okinawa and Korea, and the Koreans don't like the Japanese don't like the Koreans. It's just, and that's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of years of going back and forth. But the way you could stitch that together to bring the book to the near now is to insert the Kanawa advisor into the mix, because
I like that.
With the contagion that's dropped in, and with the Kanawa plan, and you have Kanawa smart enough to know all of this, they could approach each individual nation and say, yeah, we'll help you. We're going to help you first. We'll help them second. And then you tell that to every single nation. We're going to help you first, Japan. We're going to help you first, Korea. We're going to help you first, China. And then each one gets a team of Kanawa advisors that embed in all aspects of life. And all of a sudden, they have all of this manufacturing breakthroughs that are just slightly ahead of everything else, and they have all of these other technological breakthroughs that are slightly ahead of everything else. And oh, by the way, we're going to take here's your kit for your soldiers and your policemen that's just a little bit better than everybody else. But yeah, you get it from Kanawa, but we're giving it to you, giving you the good stuff. Everybody else gets the secondary stuff, and they'll buy that. And then the advisors are the ones that link it all together. But the individual governments, the core Earth governments, 100%, they're like, we're not talking to them. No, you don't have to talk to them. We'll take care of that, Kanawa says. And so the racial biases can stay there the way that they are normally, but they still can coexist, if you will. At least in
and I'm
game
absolutely
terms.
not arguing against like the real world experience here. I'm just putting that out there.
I'll just say everybody's Cosmverse can be how they want it. So if you want to go more real, take everything that Adam just said. If you don't want to worry about that and focus on just the Kanawa being the big thing, then you can slide on over to Rachel's. I like the idea of these advisors coming in and, hey, give up, because it wasn't just a we'll help you, it was give up some of your power to us because we need to step in. You don't know how to handle this pandemic going on. We do, so we want some control, and then they're not going to give the control back. So you can work that way as well.
Well, and they don't even look at it as control either, because we're supplying you, we're just helping you out, right? And then all of the executive level people get Zuzus, and everybody starts getting used to getting on the Plexus and seeing the internet from the Konoha side of it, right? And that information, they get hooked into it, and it's like a drug. I could go back to the old way, but why would I want to do that? This is so much better. And then when they get a step ahead of their everybody behind, that's their competition locally, well, now you've got them, because if they give you up, they have to go back to doing it the old way, and they're not going to be as good or beating the people that they want to beat. And so, well, okay, I'll stay with you guys. So,
And I'm also very much a fan of giving players something that looks shiny and beautiful, and then having the dark flip side of it. So
So
I
there's
love the
just
Zuzu for that purpose.
Yeah.
a lot of potential in Pan-Pacifica. And it brings out the intrigue. So if we want to talk about inspirations, Mark, what would you see as inspirations for Pan-Pacifica?
Oh, wow. So the very first thing that pops into my head, two things. Johnny Mnemonic. I love Johnny Mnemonic as a movie, as an inspiration for Pan-Pacifica, just because of the way that whole society fits together. And any cyberpunk game you've ever played, specifically Shadowrun for me. I love the mercenary class in Shadowrun that just fits to me really well with the Electric Samurai, or corporate ninja running around in suits, or the Yakuza in the officer friendly glasses. Then you can never tell where their eyeballs are. Those are two inspirations for me. Johnny Mnemonic mostly because you never really know who you can trust. There's always somebody working somewhere, and they've got the rudimentary net, plexus, god net, cur, whatever you want to call it. And that whole theme there.
So
Great.
as a
Or
follow-up
Adam.
to that,
Mhm.
I'd say Ghost in the Shell.
Ghost of
Okay.
Shell's a good one. Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely.
Especially if you're playing Storm Knights, if you're playing all Pan-Pacifica originated Storm Knights, you're looking at something very close to Section 9.
Akira wouldn't be a bad choice either.
Akira wouldn't be a bad choice either. If you bring a bunch of Nile characters to Pan-Pacifica, you get, and I know this is going to sound really funny, but you get Hero Academia. You really do. You get something like Hero Academia if you bring a bunch of Nile characters over, and so there's a lot of anime that you can use as inspiration for adventures and seeing what you would want to do. There's a lot of for me, a lot of what my Pan-Pacifica looks like comes from what I said earlier. I've been an American in Asia most of my life. And so I lived in Singapore, I lived in Indonesia, I've spent a lot of time in Japan, I've been Hong Kong, China, mainland China. And so I get to see that experience and see what the streets look like and what the buildings look like and what everything looks like from a street level view. And so if you've traveled there, you get a chance to have that as an inspiration as to what you want it to look like. I have travel maps from my last couple of trips to Japan, detailed maps of the city of Tokyo that I picked up specifically for use in my Torg games.
That'd be cool.
Rachel, inspirations for you.
So so the biggest one that comes to mind for me is Altered Carbon. Just a lot of the parallels of like how that society is set up. You know, maybe not all of the details of where their tech goes, but very much the stratification. And Altered Carbon is probably a bit grittier than most Pan-Pacifica games, just because Pan-Pacifica is very much, it almost looks like Core Earth, almost. And Altered Carbon, it very much does not. But a lot of the same aesthetics are there. The other thing that kind of comes to mind for me is the Minority Report, the movie where you have the people who, you know, the three clairvoyants in their little pods who predict all crime, and well, if it's been predicted, we're going to go arrest you anyway. just for the layers of the layers of scheming and everything that's involved with that movie. I think there's a lot of cool stuff to draw on there. So if you have 2 hours and you haven't seen it and you want to play Pan-Pacifica, it's a fun watch.
And then, as well as those, I would add Pan-Pacifica is one that you could have your heists and your operation type missions in. A couple of, I think one has Ryan Reynolds called Six Underground that I watched that I thought was a nice,
Yeah, that's a good one.
operations type one, leverage, as well as the various oceans. They're not so much the cyber part, or I guess the punk part of the biopunk of Pan-Pacifica, but they do give those kind of heist and operations type missions that you can have, as well as then you can go, if you wish to, and this is one thing that we do offer and why in the Pan-Pacifica booster pack for the cards is there was a contagion that broke out, and if you want to lean into that, you can go Resident Evil-ish. But if you want to carry along as because again, a disclaimer, different people get uncomfortable by certain topics, and especially if something even remotely similar has happened recently in the real world. If you want to get rid of that, then you can go with the corporations and the heists and stuff like that, or you can mix it all up. Pan-Pacifica just has a lot of different things. It's not just cyber papacy, the church plus cyberware. There's just a lot that is offered in Pan-Pacifica. So all of those things that everybody else said, lean into the biopunk, the Resident Evil if you want to go that way. If you want to go the other way, you can lean into the heists and taking out small teams to take out big targets and things like that. So let's go back to Mark about anything Pan-Pacifica. If you want to talk about the High Lord, the Darkness device, anything.
Well, so no. Going off of where you were going with that, though, just to take that in another level of talking about the contagion, I was when I heard that was going away, the infected to me were one of the big things that made original Torg, made Pan-Pacifica a thing in original Torg, right? And when my knee-jerk reaction when I heard this is not going to be a thing was, well, you're ruining the Cosm. And then I saw what was being done with the Cosm, like, okay, I can buy into this. So if you want the contagion, you want the infected, you want that kind of thing, you can still have it. It's a thing in Taiwan, most notably Taiwan, if you want it, because Taiwan, when they came down, the Kanawa had this plan and said, here's the Kanawa plan for this problem you have, because it was a lot like cyber papacy, where they created the problem and then they solved the problem, right? Kanawa, unbeknownst to everybody, they didn't know, but Kanawa created the contagion and said, oh, by the way, here's how we solve this. Taiwan saw what, as Leamon pointed out, we have to cede a little control to you. Well, no, we're not going to do that. They've been pushing back at the big country for a long time about, no, you're not coming over here. And they're like, oh, yes, we are. And then when Kanawa comes in and says, well, you give us control and we'll take care of this for you, they're like, no, we got this. So Taiwan has been seriously punished for not accepting the Kanawa program like everybody else has. So if you want to drop into Taiwan and go through that whole zombie apocalypse meets the blasted lands kind of living land kind of thing, you can absolutely do it on Taiwan, because you've got pockets of survivors clinging to whatever they can anywhere, just in the most unusual places. And so you can go do that whole run, hide, fight thing from the zombie apocalypse if that's your bag. If you don't want to deal with it, as Leamon said, the solution to the contagion's been presented, and with one exception, which I'm sure we'll get to at some point, and I won't let the cat out of the bag. I'll let Leamon do that, because I don't know when I know he's going to bring it up, but I just don't know when. you can do it all on Taiwan, or you can go anywhere else and not have it at all. So, I mean, to me, that's the beauty of Torg Eternity's Pan-Pacifica, is that it's been managed in such a way that it can be a thing as big or as small as you want. It can show up every now and then as homage. It can be a major plot point. It can be not at all.
And so to follow up on what Mark's saying, we went the direct opposite of Taiwan with Singapore, Malaysia, the Malaya areas, where the Contagion never made it down to the island. And so if you want to play corporate espionage, government espionage, the Kanawas trying to push into a very heavily established government the way Singapore is, that's a place to do it. We actually detail for you when the public at large gets the source book, we detail in there for you where the Kanawas are set up in Singapore. We also talk about where the Delphi Council. Well, okay, no, we don't talk about where the Delphi Council set up in Singapore because that got edited out. Delphi Council maintains a shell corporation in Singapore, and you can pick where on the island you want the offices because my choices were deemed inappropriate by the editors. Understandably, I'm not mad. I promise you, I'm not mad. But you have the ability to play a full corporate or government espionage kind of campaign in Singapore, and if you can just look up the stuff of the island, even if you've never been to the country, and see just what amazing opportunities there are in that 250 square miles to play a corporate government espionage game.
Rachel.
So, as I've mentioned before, I pretty much came to Torg with Torg Eternity. So I did not have the we lost our Contagion feel. Instead, I actually came from writing for a zombie apocalypse game before I came to Torg, and went, oh wow, we get to do zombie apocalypse stuff. So I will just throw out a couple other inspirations to check out on the zombie side of things. All of Us Are Dead. It's a Netflix series that came out within the last year or so about a Korean high school where it's ground zero for the zombie apocalypse. It's about 10 episodes. It's a great watch. Very much enjoyed it. Thought they did a great job of that kind of slow, deliberate pacing that makes zombie movies really good. And of course, any of the classic zombie flicks, Dawn of the Dead or anything like that are always good watches for that as well. But I love that Pan-Pacifica gives us the range to go from that and potentially have the same actors and villains involved that you could then turn around and have running corporate shenanigans and all of that, because there is such depth of character there to be playing both sides of that in the same cosm.
Yeah, I'll not sure if Mark misspoke. In original Torg, Pan-Pacifica was not present. It was called Nippon Tech, and there were no zombies whatsoever.
Well, it wasn't zombies, but it was
Contagion.
It was infected.
Not in original Torg. Original Torg had no zombies, no infected. It was all corporate. But when Torg Eternity came out, see, I was the opposite of Mark. When Torg Eternity came out, I was like, oh man, they took out the corporate espionage and put in zombies. And then once I got
getting to that yet. I'm holding on to that.
Once I then started thinking about it in Torg Eternity and got comfortable with it in Torg Eternity and was trying to figure out cool ways of doing it in Torg Eternity, then the real life pandemic occurred, and then it gets cut, and then I'm like, now I'm missing out on this. So that's why I completely say to all game masters, all groups, get together, determine where your comfort level is and what the things are. If you want it all, put it all in. If you want different sections that have different things, put it all in. When I introduced Torg Eternity, we converted an original Torg game to Torg Eternity. I had the Pan-Pacifica part be the zombie, apocalypse type thing happening, but in original Torg, there was the miracle of Sacramental that happened that Nippon Tech invaded and said, "Oh, look, we freed," and I used that as only the corporate intrigue and did not do the zombie part. So you can mix it up, and we have lots of cards. So you can, as a game master, take infected cards out. If you don't, you can add them in if you want it. And it's to me, that's what's cool, is that every experience can be different, and you can tailor it for your own table, your own group.
I am going to say you're absolutely right. The reason I blended it was, I'm going to blame Rod. Michael Roderick is the one who introduced me to Torg, and we started playing original Torg, and then when Torg Eternity came out, we moved right into it. But because like you were talking about, the corporate intrigue part wasn't in there, he did a masterful job of blending all of that together to keep the corporate part, which we all loved, and then inserting it all. And in my head canon, because it's been a while, that kind of just morphed into the old stuff as well, because it moved in so seamlessly, or he did such a good job moving it in so seamlessly. So yeah, I did misspoke.
So your
correct.
canon became what you thought the published stuff was.
I was like,
honestly, that's a huge thumbs up to your GM. Yeah.
That's great.
Rod's a great Torg GM.
Like Leamon, when Pan-Pacifica first came out, I'm like, what the hell is this? And I'm very much an anti-contagion person, simply for the fact that the way Torg is designed, my view on it is, if you want zombies, we've got a rush. We have a horror realm for you to go play with zombies and vampires. We don't need zombies and vampires in a 21st century plus tech environment.
See, I see them as two very different approaches to zombies, because Aurora very much is, they're here. We all know they're here. They're here all the time. Whereas Pan-Pacifica has a little bit more of the, like, this is core Earth, but now we're dealing with this.
Well, it's Resident Evil versus Ramiro's zombie apocalypse.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, Resident Evil is the evil corporation experimenting, doing things, and it's come out to get us. Whereas the zombies of Aurora are the Night of the Living Dead horror. Well, I guess not even Night of the Living Dead, because Aurora is
gothic. It's gothic.
Victorian Gothic, yeah.
And I'll say, when Torg Eternity came out, I wasn't a part of it as a freelancer or anything yet. I had the same thing that Adam did, there's zombies, there's high fantasy zombies in Isle, there's gothic horror zombies in Aurora. Here's another zombies. But again, once I started thinking about it as this is to not necessarily always make it the main focus. It's a background focus. There's a zombie, that's why there's the infected cards. Hey, you might have got bitten. You're worried that your Storm Knights might, turn into a Xeno Gospog or something like that. It's those. I want to basically say there's 4 opinions going around here. All of them are valid for our listeners to take each of our sides and determine what's best for you. If that's me, if that's Adam, that's Mark, Rachel, we're just presenting a lot of ideas here, because we all have different takes. Rachel loves she didn't have this.
Like I said, I came from zombies. So
right.
I'm like, oh yeah, we got flavors of zombies here. This is great.
Oh yeah, cyber zombies and Tharcold. Let's add zombies to the T-Rex, the undead T-Rexes that we'll be talking about in a couple of weeks when we talk about
Yes.
It's people like Rachel that get movies like Zombie Strippers and Pride and Prejudice and Zombies made. Just saying.
He says that like it's a bad thing.
Yeah, right, exactly. Like, I mean, they did get made.
The phrase I've been hearing a lot lately that I'll agree with is "don't yuck on somebody else's yum."
I will make a statement that I think all 4 of us will agree with. Whatever you do, whatever opinion you listen to, is your game table.
Yep, absolutely.
Have fun.
Do what's going to be fun for you.
And we're laughing here. We're not yelling and getting mad.
Absolutely.
Yes.
It's your game table. Take it. Have fun with it. every once in a while, in the middle of the evening, I'll be sitting listening to various bands, Sabaton being one I listen to a lot, and I regale Leamon with random messages of, "Hey, this is what I've put into my game this week." So
it's all good.
some of some of it may even make it for public consumption. So you'll get to see some of the random things that come out of my head.
Yeah, we are all. Everybody here is a author that has published Torg material. So
Yep.
that's one thing that unites us all on today's episode.
Yes, so we all get to sit here and be like, occasionally I think of things, and then other people have to deal with it.
Yeah, but we get to
the other people being me.
Yes.
No, I love it. I
Greg's
love
listening to this.
Yes.
So Greg's listening to this going, at least these people aren't my problem anymore.
Right?
Okay, so just because we didn't talk about it last week, if you don't have any thoughts on it, that's fine. We'll go through, but let's talk about the High Lord Darkness device. So original Torg, the High Lord was 3327, that was the High Lord's number. And then when they invaded, because we Earthlings do not have numbers instead of names, he took the name of Ryuichi Kanawa. In Torg Eternity, Ryuichi Kanawa was the CEO of the Kanawa Corporation, but he was kind of the lazy CEO, and the face of the company was his sister, Reiko, and she was kind of the person behind the scenes working with the darkness device, and that's why I gave the warning at the beginning, because if you just have the core rules, it presents it as Ryuichi to players, but in the Game Master section and in the source book, we present it as Reiko. Again, with all of this stuff going on, make it your way. If you want to have those numbers, even though we're not doing it in Torg Eternity, you can use that as one of the marketplaces, because even officially in our source books, we went from we kind of changed a little bit. Pan-Pacifica has been like the one that changed the most between editions, and then even within Torg Eternity itself. So there's a lot of stuff you can go out there and look at, and if you see contradictory informations, choose the best that works for you. So, Rachel, I know you wanted to talk about Reiko, however.
Yeah. So, this is possibly my favorite High Lord. Again, as written for Torg Eternity, because I was all new to this with Torg Eternity. But I love just the levels of scheming that are written for her, because she very much she starts out as like, okay, well, gotta step up because mom got murdered, so now I have to be there to be the social face of the company, and steps into that role and just masterfully, like, I don't super want to spoil it for anybody who's still waiting on the book, but I just masterfully engineers a series of misfortunes for everyone who was involved with mom's death, and then
you would think that they were Russian officials or something,
right?
and being near windows,
and like,
yes, well, don't sleep near an open window.
Across all reasonable boundaries in places where you wouldn't think she would have reach, she just masterfully engineers everything, very cinematically, and then and then we get to the point where dad's no longer in the picture, and Ryuichi ends up being the new CEO, and she kind of does the like, oh, all right, I'll still be the social face of the company. And she keeps pulling those threads from behind the scenes and everything, and continuing to just manipulate all of that, and and somewhere along the line, there's a darkness device that goes, that's what I want. And I very much enjoy her story, to the point that I super don't want to be the one to spoil all the beautiful writing for everybody who's waiting on it still.
So, first comment I'm going to make is that if we're using the Japanese pronunciation, her name is...
Yeah, go for it.
It's not Ryuichi or Reiko, it's Ryuichi.
Ryuichi? Okay.
That's something we had kind of we had debated about how to properly pronounce that last week. So yes, we appreciate your input.
The E is an A, so it's Ryuichi. It's
Ryuichi? Okay.
Ryuichi.
Okay. Thank you for that.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah. We were talking earlier about Stephen Cummings. Like I said, Steve's a good friend of mine, lives in Japan, speaks Japanese fluently. And so anytime I botch a pronunciation of a historical Japanese figure, he corrects me pretty violently. So
it is fantastic to have those friends.
It's like when my friend hears my Russian. So,
but we're talking about her engineering the end of those people that she needed to.
Yeah.
There's a couple things,
quote unquote needed to.
Yes. So first off, it's not as Russian as you think it is, Leamon. It's actually very Japanese. It's very medieval Japanese.
Old school.
Very old school.
Yes.
I would also add to that links back to other inspirations. While you would have to adapt them to modernism, obviously, look at Kurosawa films, 47 Ronin, Seven Samurai, Ron.
Yojimbo.
Incredible. Yojimbo. Yeah, Kurosawa was the master of telling stories. And Kurosawa did better films than, frankly, pretty much any modern American director. All of those films can be easily adapted into modern setting and used for Pan-Pacifica. A good number of American Westerns are actually Kurosawa films remade for American television or Western television. So, but yeah, no, she is the one change from the original Nippon Tech that I actually like. And one of the things that I watched for very closely in her writing was, where are they going to base the company when she takes charge? Are they going to leave it in Tokyo? Are they going to move it to China? How are they going to do this? And how our colleagues were going to do this? Because whether people think about the cultural differences or not, a female CEO in China is going to have a whole lot harder time than a female CEO in Japan. Even for a country as traditional as Japan is, when it comes to the corporate ranks, there's a lot of equality. And so that was, she is, the fact that they left the company in Japan, that our colleagues left the company in Japan, and show what she's been able to do as CEO of the company and the acceptance that she's gained from even the companies that she hasn't managed to engineer her way into yet, i.e. has not killed the CEOs and taken over. There's a lot of positivity in that writing, and the writing is done really well. And you will find that even in the stories of medieval Japan, the oldest sisters were the social directors in the upper class homes. All the things that she does actually come literally straight out of traditional Japanese stories.
Stop it.
And she
that was to Mark's dog, not us.
Yeah, that was my dog. I'm sorry.
For those who are listening and didn't see Mark turn his head.
Keep going, Adam. Keep going. So sorry.
And so there's actually a series of novels that if you're wondering about the social position of single women in Japan and how that relates coming forward, there's a really good series of novels called Tomo Goes In about a female samurai during the Japanese shogunate period that I would absolutely recommend to people as reading and inspiration for how you want to set, if you want to look at something that is not necessarily modern, that shows you exactly how Ryoko gets to where she is.
Very cool. So yes, I like the switch up. I like how a game master, if the players don't read that game master section in the core rules, that it could set up a big surprise. You know, you could have the Storm Knights take out the High Lord in your game and not have it actually be the High Lord, and that's could in your game that could be the reason that the real High Lord. Reiko? Is that how you say it? Reiko?
Ryuichi.
Reiko.
Ryuichi.
Reiko. Okay. I will say her.
Yeah, you know.
Sorry, again, I said this last time. There's a few. I speak multiple languages, and these are the ones that are the difficult ones for me. Let me speak Russian, and I will be fine. But no, that's just a cool thing that you could have and make it a little bit different. You could have the brother be the assumed High Lord, have your Storm Knights take him out, and then since everything in Pan-Pacifica has a twist, a plot, people behind the scenes, then the sister is revealed as being the true High Lord in your campaign. I think that's not anything that we put out, but I think that would be a good spin on things for a table. And then I do like how Rachel did have the thing. I want to say out of all the High Lord Darkness device relationships, I think this is probably the one that's more of both of them working to the same goal and liking each other. Because we have other ones that are completely either the High Lord or the Darkness device is clearly the master, is the one in charge. And then the other ones who don't like each other, but they all scheme.
And Barokar are pretty good.
Yeah. But it's just one that I think that out of all of them, they're more the on the same level of.
Oh, very much so. In Pan-Pacifica, it's very much a symbiotic relationship. You know, you go to Arash, the Gauntman is obviously the one in charge there. And if you go to original Torg, you can tell that because the Darkness device walked all over Thrachin. Now, to be fair, everybody in every version of Torg walked all over Thrachin. I was actually having this conversation with John Watson a few months ago. Thrachin has been treated horribly in every version of Torg.
He deserved it, though.
You know? Just saying, Thrachin has been everybody's doormat in every version of Torg.
It's very much the I got a rock.
You know? Yes. But you know, yeah, you're right. It's very clear who's in charge. And you know, the Darkness device ran Arash while Thrachin stood in for the Gauntman, but the Gauntman is absolutely the one in charge in Arash. And then you know, you go up to Isle and. Let's face it, Itharian without the Darkness device is a wimp.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, he really is. The Darkness device in Nile plays to Mobius's psychosis, for lack of a better term. The Darkness device in the Cyber Papacy is almost to the point of wanting to abandon Malraux. I mean, how bad does it have to be when you're a Darkness device and you're ready to tell your High Lord to go piss off? I mean, you know,
that Darkness device wants to be its own High Lord.
It does.
Yeah, they have their own fun dynamic.
I have had enough of this. I got to do this myself.
He is so the Darkness device in the Cyber Papacy is so ticked off at Malraux that I'm interested to see what we do with the Cyber Papacy going forward, because it is definitely a horrible relationship. It's like a couple that's been married 30 years and shouldn't have been married more than 30 minutes.
Yep.
It's a horrible relationship, and it tolerates Malraux because Malraux hates Mobius, and I think we've established that Malraux is from a different realm or a different set of the Infiniverse than this Mobius, and so they hate each other for something that their counterparts did. You know, the High Lord Darkness device relationships are really interesting, but this one is absolutely the most symbiotic in the universe.
I
So
think
this
so
one-
as well.
This one very much struck me like it was like a job interview almost, which is very, very
Appropriate.
fitting for this
Yes, it's very
cosm.
appropriate for
Yeah.
the cosm.
So yes, so it seems like on this one, all of us kind of agree with the High Lord and Darkness Device are on that more equal footing. I will say Mark is correct. Rek Pakken and Barak Ka are pretty, but I think that might be a lot due to the social axiom of that.
Different reasons, sure.
Different
they're
reasons,
about-
but they're close as well. I mean, he wields the Darkness Device in battle. It is his.
they're very happy with.
Yes.
I think Rek Pakken and Barakar are as happy with each other as Reiko and Daikoku are with each other. They're like, this is working. We can make this work here.
Mhm.
Well,
The rest of it is dysfunctional on one level or another.
Well, there's a lot of similarity, right? Ryoko wants to just screw with people, which Daikoku does too. They just want to screw with people. That's what they do. In the Living Land, I refer to the Living Land as the murder hobo cosm, because pretty much every Living Land based adventure, you're just murder hobos. And for those of you listening that have not played original Dungeons and Dragons, in the old days, we go through and we just do a dungeon crawl and we just kill things. And therefore, we were murder hobos. We go place to place to place, and that's all we did. So, yeah, in the Living Land, it's just a murder hobo cosm. I personally, your mileage may vary, don't really see a real adventuring opportunities there. So, but I think Barak Khan and the fact that he likes to kill things and take things over, has a Darkness Device that likes to kill things and take things over, it works well for them.
There are some in Torg Eternity we have kind of branched out a little. First Walk is an awesome Nile or
Fantastic.
Delphi mission in the Living Land that gets to the spiritual side of things, and it's not just
it's a
going
great
out and
mission.
killing stuff. And I would recommend if you wish to not do the murder hobo hack and slash that is very easy to slip into with the Living Land, please take a look at that adventure. It's in the Living Land Delphi missions. That is Gray Gordon, again, we'll mention his name lots. He wrote it, and it shows that he knows what he's talking about because he's the guy who made the game.
Yeah, that's a great mission.
And okay, I make my comment, but I will say the God Box is a lot of fun. The God Box is probably more fun if you have never played the Temple of Rextalic, but the God Box is a lot of fun. I was sitting in a group, guy was running it. We got about 2 acts in, and I went, oh, it's the Temple of Rextalic. That's all this adventure is. It's the Temple of Rextalic with High Lord of Earth combined at the back of it. And I'm messaging with Daryl Harris, and I go, Daryl, really? Shane just rewrote the Temple of Rextalic? He goes, no, it's not the Temple of Rextalic. I'm like, no, Daryl, I just talked to Greg. It's the Temple of Rextalic. That's all this is. There should have been a warning somewhere, is all I'm saying. But no,
let's go back to Pan-Pacifica, though.
Thank you.
Yes. I haven't had a chance to play Operational Soft Cell yet, but John seems very proud of it, so should be an interesting campaign.
Yeah, we did a lot of brainstorming on that one and coming up with ways, because for game masters and players out there listening, one of the things Torg Eternity tried to do is establish an organization that would never betray the Storm Knights, because you collect all these Eternity shards, and any group that has ever role-played in the history of role-playing is not going to give up any powerful item, because they're very afraid that whoever they give that powerful item to is going to turn around and betray them. So that was part
because
of
they always do.
Because they always do. So we as developers, as the company behind it, said, no, this will not happen. Operation Soft Cell is the closest that we come, because it's Pan-Pacifica, and Pan-Pacifica is betrayal, but it's not because of the Delphi Council. So that's the one thing. It is also you aren't Storm Knights when you play. So it gives you a chance to be stormers and be on that other side, which I have been hearing. Basically every time we would write a adventure or mega adventure, people would always, oh, we want it more sandboxy. Oh, it's all about the Delphi Council. So we try to switch things up a little and show how game masters can make it a little bit different. And again, your table can be your table. If you don't want the Delphi Council, that's fine. If you want to go back to the original Torg, where they were underhanded, scheming organization of Core Earth, you can do that. It's just officially we won't have the Delphi Council betray the Storm Knights, because that's just the base game that we want to present. Again, table variation, game masters and tables. Run with that how you want. But no, Operation Soft Cell, I really enjoyed writing it. It was the same three of us, John Watson, Brian Reeves, myself, who did Blood on the Blasted Lands. So if you went through Blood on the Blasted Lands and enjoyed that, you would probably enjoy Operation Soft Cell as well.
So I've not played Blood on the Blasted Lands either. Confession.
It's a fantastic mission.
So
and that's not sucking up. It's a fantastic mission.
A pure confession, Tharcold is my least favorite realm. And
so can I tell you this, Adam? I didn't want to go to Tharcold because it was my least favorite. And then I had a friend who asked me to run Blood on the Blasted Lands for him over the course of a weekend in old school power gaming. It's like, I don't really want to do this, but okay, I'll do it. And once I read through it, it's a blast. You need to play it. It's a lot of fun.
I'll take a look at it. I wasn't a fan of Tharcold in the old game. Wasn't really a big fan of bringing it back. I realize there's a demand for it. Don't get me wrong. That demand's just not me. And actually, how I met John, we met at a game table. John used to live in my area. For those that don't know, he lived in the Dallas area. He's moved down to Houston recently, but John and I would sit and we talk about Tharcold, and it just was just not my thing. John does a great job running it at cons. He does a great job presenting it. I will check out Blood on the Blasted Lands, especially now that I know two of the three authors. But
don't go into it with a Tharcold approach. Go into it with a Mad Max approach.
Okay.
And for me, love post-apocalyptic. Mad Max, sold.
Okay, so
think Thunderdome and head that way, and you'll be fine.
So I will take a look at it. But again, Soft Cell just is. I remember the old Operation Hard Cell for those who have played the original Torg, and
it's completely a play. That was my decision.
Yeah.
Before I was the line developer, we were trying to figure out a name. And there were so many Delphi missions called Operation, because it's almost like you have to have your Pan-Pacifica called Operation. And I was like, let's just go Soft Cell. And they were like, okay, we're going Soft Cell.
Yeah, no, and I thought it was a great play. And John and I had a long conversation about it. He's like, look, it's not that adventure, but there's a lot of stuff that harkens to it. Mm-hmm. That if you're an old Torg player, you will obviously, you'll recognize it, but you'll also recognize why it's different.
No spoilers. We're going to do it we're doing it on Hallowed Data after we finish our current mission, Revenge of the Caradon. And then who's running Soft Cell?
I'm not sure.
I can't remember who it is, but we're going to do Unhallowed Data, and then we're going to do, I think we're doing Soft Cell after that.
So that's cool. And I'm looking forward to doing it at my table. Now that I've got it, we've got a home written adventure, testing out some of the random stuff that I've sent Leamon over the last several months, because you sit and listen to Sabaton and you're like, hey, there's a bit of history here. Hey, I can incorporate this into my Torg game. So again, we'll see how much of my madness Leamon lets go to press. But yeah, as soon as we finish our current one, I'll pull Soft Cell out. We'll play it, and then I'll see if the guys want to do Blood on the Blasted Lands. We've added a Tharcold character to our group, so it's just a matter now of getting time together and I know they want to do it. The guys want to play Thargold, and I've never been a big fan, but I'll take your recommendation, Mark. We'll try it.
So I will also say that people keep referencing me back to Soft Cell when I'm working on things for other Cosms as well, as like this is an adventure that did something similar really well. So I have read through it. It's a great read. Definitely also echoing that you should check it out if you get a chance.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
No,
and that's
definitely.
a great thing about Torg is there are 7 invading realms. If you don't like one of them, you don't necessarily have to ever go there. But we would like you to at least, look at it and take a look. A few other things, because with 4 of us talking, man, this hour is going by fast.
Oh yeah.
You had to know this was coming.
Yes. And we tend to do tangents, which is what I'm doing right now. So, yes, Pan-Pacifica is a mixture. You can go as far zombie apocalypse in a near future setting. You can have corporate entry. You can do heist. You can do operations. You can do any of that. As Storm Knights, there are lots of different things you can do. You can do gene mods, genetic modifications, which kind of takes that place of cyberware in other realms, or cybernetics in other realms, basically gene splicing and things like that, that can lead to all of those cool things, whether you go zombie or whether you go corporation, because they're all doing this stuff. There are hardware type things, so you can have those hard suits from various either anime or things like Marvel, Iron Man. You can go in that direction. You can go into the martial art direction, because there is a whole group of vitality perks and paths, which were something that we did to make things just a little bit different than the normal just getting perks. So the path mechanic is very different than what was seen before. There are some types of psychic abilities in that. So there's just a lot in Pan-Pacifica. And we'll probably at some point in the future have an episode where we talk about the various things, because you can't fit it all in an hour, even if there were just 2 or 3 of us here.
So as we continue the discussion, when you're looking at building adventures in Pan-Pacifica, and you're looking at building what you want your game tables Pan-Pacifica to look like, don't be afraid to look at the history and the mythos of the nations that are covered inside Pan-Pacifica's realm. Look at the history, the cultures, the things that, while the magic axiom and spiritual axioms are not as high as you would find in Isle or Arash or the Cyber Papacy, look at things that could be inspiring. You may have, and I'm just going to throw this as an example. I haven't tried this yet, but you may have a engineer in Indonesia decide to build a mechanical Komodo dragon. Actually, that would be terrifying as a target. In fact, Leamon, I think I'm going to do that for the threats book. I'll send that to you. Mechanical Komodo dragon. It'd be absolutely terrifying. But that's something that you can do. Look at the fact. I mean, Indonesia, 1,700 islands. You've got a whole bunch of places that you could set an adventure. You could set a secret base, say, something, a secret factory. While Singapore is a little less, has less places to hide, at the same time, you have a nation that has less than 3 million natives and more than 3 million expats, and serves as a port of call for vessels all over the world. And because it's a hidden invasion, nobody knows there's anything different going on there. So you have people, your adventure, you could hide your bad guys in plain sight there. There's a whole bunch. There's a whole bunch of little things in that part of the world, throughout East Asia and Southeast Asia, and even into the Australasian areas, that you can use to build your adventures with. It's a great realm. There's a lot of source material. I don't normally recommend this, mainly because I have a master's degree and additional graduate hours, but go to Wikipedia. You can pull things out of Wikipedia if you need to. Not acceptable for bibliographies. If we ever get it right for us, not acceptable for bibliographies. Just want to point that out. But for your game table, go find fun stuff in Wikipedia and go play with it.
And at the bottom of those pages, sometimes they have sources that you can look deeper into.
Yes, they do.
So, one other thing before we wrap up, I wanted to state was that from the home cosm, the reality of Pan-Pacifica is marketplace. They have conquered other places, and when they conquer those other places, they don't just destroy them, they leave them as resources to be used later. And those conquer worlds plus marketplace equals the grouping called the conglomerate. And then within the conglomerate, there's lots of different peoples within them. So when they invade someplace, they take the people that are going to blend in there. They take the people that are going to know. They go through intensive training to learn the local customs, cultures, etc. So when they drop into places such as Australia, they will blend in. It's not going to be like in original Torg, when every time you see a group of Japanese tourists, you just know that they're Nippon Tech agents.
Nope, Kana was here.
Please think about having them in the background. They blend in. If they invaded, if they would have invaded New York instead of dinosaurs, they would have fit into, they would have walked into the stock market, and nobody would have been any wiser than them invading Pan-Pacifica or that area. So any last minutes, because we are at a little over the hour before we wrap up this episode.
You talk about Japanese tourists in Australia. I just to point out, it's a danger of my day job, but the highest rate of travel between 2 points anywhere in the world is Japan into Australia. So, you're still going to see that group of Japanese tourists, and there could be a Kanawa agent in there. I'm just saying.
It's just in the original Torg, they always were, no matter where. You would have them in Aurora. They could be in Aurora. All of a sudden, you see Japanese tourists, you know that they're Kanawa. So, Mark, any last thoughts from you?
Sure.
Yep. So I got two things: one for the GMs and one for the players.
Okay.
GMs, go pick up a copy of Nippon Tech off eBay. Go to page 47 and get you the breakdown of all of the companies that are subsidiaries of Kanawa. You can rebuild and do the whole corporate intrigue, subsidiaries, and all of that, and have the names and pull them in and do that. For the players, there is so much stuff in Pan-Pacifica. Power armor, gene mods, psionics, you name it, it's there. And especially with the vitality paths. And I had to do this with Rod when I built one of my guys on one of the vitality paths. Build out your thing, and you're going to say, oh, I bet I can take this and do this with this, and it's going to do it this way. And there are so many bonuses and modifiers that you could play with and pay with in a vitality path. You need to sit down with your GM and write them down ahead of time, because if you don't, the table's gameplay will stop dead for 10 to 30 minutes as you talk through, I want to do this and I want to do this, but what happens if we do this? And what happens if we do this? Does this modify that? And your GM's going to have to make some rulings. So you might want to have a session where you and the GM get together, you lay out what you're doing, and you say, well, these are the things that I think I might want to do when I come in. I want to do a bunch, there's 14 mooks and I want to take out 10 of them, because there are paths that will let you look at that and think it's possible. And guess what? It is.
Rachel, any last thoughts from you?
So I will kind of throw out there that one of the things we mentioned last week about Pan-Pacifica is that everything has the point at which it falls apart, because everybody has their own scheme behind the scenes. And so even the best laid plan is going to have that kicker at the end. And just really, as a player, know that that's what you're playing. Know that, have fun with that. Oh man, we were so close, but we know that the other foot's going to fall kind of mentality. And as a GM, also, have fun with that. Be sure to have those breadcrumbs along the way to, give a good pacing to it, so that when your players do have that other footfall, it's the like, oh, we should have seen that coming, rather than the like, frustration that they had no idea, or anything. So there's so much good storytelling that you can do within Pan-Pacifica. It's a great read. It definitely has a lot of spoilers. They're fun spoilers. So yeah, I really hope that everybody has fun with it.
Yeah, we had a lot of people that helped write the Pan-Pacifica source book, and I think it turned out really well. Really proud of that.
I was not one of them, so I can say it's really cool and have it not be self-promotion. So I really enjoyed reading it.
Yeah, well, so I will say it's cool, and it is self-promotion since I helped write it.
Right.
One other comment. There are other games, other game supplements, other universes out there that make really good things to draw into Torg and fit really well. And I'm going to be a little self-promoting in this because I now own the company, but it's really a shout out to my brother who created the setting. There's a game from Battlefield Press called Agents of Gaia that is intentionally settingless. Gaia is the Government Antiquities Investigative Agency. And you're a bunch of think of Warehouse 13 meets X-Files with just a lot more intrigue attached to that. And I took his Gaia campaign and took that setting and drew it into my Torg campaign and made that a U.S. government agency, and then ultimately put the Gaia agents in my Torg game on loan to Cassandra. So, and that's just an example. But there's all sorts of other things that kind of relate to the kind of game Torg is that you can steal and just bring into Torg. And, so when you're setting your game table, look at all the possibilities, no pun intended, and look at what you can do and bring those things in, and always keep in mind, it's your game table.
Yep. And yeah, always mine. Beg, borrow, steal from other places to bring into your setting that you want. With that, I thank everybody for listening. I thank our hosts for being here. Down in the description, as well as the usual me and Mark's Wednesday stream, we'll have Rachel's website, Rachel Writes Things, as well as information for Adam and Battlefield Press, correct?
Yes.
Okay, so thank you very much for listening. Please write us at torgdcd@gmail.com. And until next time, we hope you have fun in your Cosmverse. Bye.
Bye,
Bye, everybody. Thanks for having me, Leamon.